we are seeing this last chapter in this Telangana Movement and State Formation. So last chapter, in that we saw this how this Telangana state formed. It was passed in the Lok Sabha, that is on 18th February. The bill that was passed, the state bifurcation bill that was passed in the Lok Sabha, that is on 18th February. So this 18th February 2014, the bill that was passed in the Lok Sabha, right? So like that happened. So it is passed in the Rajya Sabha, that is on 20th February. It was passed so in the Rajya Sabha. This is Lok Sabha, House of People, we can say Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha is also called House of People. Rajya Sabha, it was passed in Rajya Sabha, that is on 20th. Rajya Sabha, that is on 20th. And President signed on this one, that is on March 1st. Appointed day that was decided. That is 2nd June 2014 only. New state is going to be formed, like that it is said. With that incident, appointment of 14 committees took place. Appointment of 14 committees. Appointment of 14 committees. 14 committees were appointed to favor this bifurcation, especially. So there is how, in a sense, to facilitate the bifurcation only. To facilitate the bifurcation, 14 committees are appointed by the government. Okay. So in this especially, so there is to manage the entire bifurcation process. So an apex body was constituted by the Department of Planning with 7 IAS officers headed by Special Chief Secretary Satya Prakash Thakur. So for this head was Satya Prakash Thakur was appointed as. So there is a convener for this one. Okay, especially Department of Planning. So this was appointed by apex body was appointed. So the chairperson for this secretary, okay, chief secretary we are calling Satya Prakash Thakur. So for this what happened? Satya Prakash Thakur. This Satya Prakash Thakur was appointed as. Satya Prakash Thakur was appointed as chief secretary, especially for this committees, like that it was said. Okay, Satya Prakash. So there is a convener will be preside over apex body. The members Ajay Mishra, Venkateshwar Rao, Nagireddy, so there's Samir Sharma, Rajiv Sharma, etc. They are all the members in this especially apex body we are calling. In this apex body consisted of all these members. Okay, Raymond Peter, he is also one. So LV Subramaniam. So LV Subramaniam, he is one of the members in this. Ajay Mishra, he is one in this. Ajay Mishra in apex body. So like that here. So this apex body that was appointed for this one bifurcation to favor the things. Along with this committees, a state reorganization cell was also constructed in the state secretariat. Okay, so state bifurcation. So the state reorganization cell, we can say, that was also established, like that we can say, right? So then we have to see committees, that is important here. So 14 committees were appointed. So what are the committees? Appointment of 14 committees. So this appointment of 14 committees. So there is 14 committees. First committee, finance committee, we can say. First one, appointment of committees, 14 committees. Appointment of 14 committees. Appointment of these 14 committees. First committee, that is finance committee, headed by Principal Secretary of Finance Department, to apportionment of financial assets. Apportionment of, distribution of, apportionment of, decide what share must be given to Andhra Rayalaseema, what share must be given to Telangana, like that. Apportionment of. So there is especially financial assets and liabilities such as treasury, bank balances, etc. Okay, so first one, finance committee. First one, finance committee we are calling. First committee, that is finance committee. Okay, this committee that is headed by Principal Secretary of Finance Department. Headed by Principal Secretary of Finance Department. Principal Secretary of Finance Department, who was the head for this finance committee, we can say, headed by this one. So apportionment of assets and liabilities. It said about apportionment of. So there is apportionment of. So there is apportionment of assets and liabilities. Apportionment of assets. What assets they are there? What liabilities they are there? Assets and liabilities. Said about the apportionment of assets and liabilities. So finance committee, that is headed by Principal Secretary of Finance Department. It said about what, in the sense, apportionment of assets and liabilities, we can say. Okay, such as treasury and bank balances. Such as treasury, so, and at the same time bank balances. So schedule 7, so funds, pensions. Schedule 7 especially deals with funds and pensions. So additional tax payments, provident fund, government floating loans, etc. So this said about what, in the sense, government floating loans. The loans which are existing, floating loans, that's one. Provident fund, that is also one. Additional tax payments, it deals with. So treasury, bank balances. So there is especially funds like pensions also, whether pension should be given here, pension should be given there in Rayalaseema or Andhra, like that, pensions, that also. So then additional tax payments, provident fund, so government floating loans, all these are coming under so this finance committee. So finance committee dealt with what, in the sense, so there's treasury and bank balances. Treasury, mainly it deals with what, in the sense, treasury and bank balances. Treasury and bank balances, especially treasury and bank balances, that you have to remember. Bank balances, especially funds, pensions, provident funds, at the same time. So there's government floating loans, all these are coming under. So this one, first one is finance committee. Second finance committee, this is first finance commission committee. Second finance committee. Second finance committee. Second finance committee. The second finance committee. The second finance committee also functions by the Principal Secretary of Finance Department only. Revenue, expenditure and budget allocation matters. It deals with revenue expenditure. Revenue expenditure deals with what, in the sense, it deals with revenue expenditure. Second finance committee dealt with what, in the sense, revenue expenditure. So at the same time, budget allocation matters will be supervised by this committee. Budget allocation, that you have to remember. Budget allocation, that came in this one. Revenue expenditure, budget allocation. Second finance committee. It was also headed by, so there is a Secretary of Finance Department only. Principal Secretary of this Finance Department only. Right? So like that. So all these important points you have to remember. Then Secretariat General Administration Committee. Secretariat General Administration Committee. That is also one. Secretariat General Administration Committee. Secretariat General Administration we are calling. Secretariat General Administration Committee, we can say. Third one, Secretariat General Administration Committee, there's one. This committee functions under Principal Secretary General Administration on the matters related to land in the Secretariat. Land in Secretariat, other immovable assets. Land and other immovable properties, not mobile, immovable properties. Okay, immovable properties, it deals with immovable properties, we can say. It deals with land and other immovable properties which are related with this Secretariat. Okay, Secretariat, other immovable assets, buildings and stores. Immovable properties, buildings and stores. buildings and stores, they are coming under. So this one, like that, Secretariat General Administration Committee, it dealt with what, in the sense it dealt with, so there is administration on the matters related to land, which belongs to the especially Secretariat. Okay, land, other immovable properties like buildings and stores, etc., they are coming under Secretariat General Administration Committee. Roads and Buildings Committee, next one, fourth one, Roads and Buildings Committee, that is also one committee that is appointed. Fourth one, Roads and Buildings Committee. Roads and Buildings Committee, that is also one. Roads and Buildings Committee. Secretary of Transport Department works to assess the other lands, especially immovable properties, stores and other terms. It also deals with immovable properties, assets and other terms only. Roads and Buildings Committee. This also dealt with lands. So there is what immobile properties they are there, what mobile properties are there, like that. Mainly immobile properties, stores and other terms. Next one, fifth one, Planning Department Committee. Planning Department Committee, this is also one. So whichever it may be, planning is very, very important. Planning Department Committee, headed by Secretary of Planning Department. So whichever the department, head will become the chief. Okay, this is Planning Department, head of Planning Committee. So head of Roads and Buildings, like that. Here, head of Secretary of Transport mainly. So transport, where Roads and Buildings means transport. Head of transport, like that we can say. Here, head of planning department will supervise the utilization of the institutions under schedule, so especially 107, the successive states for the period of 1 year. So how this planning department, in the sense, it says the committee headed by Secretary of Planning Department supervises utilization of institutions, especially under 10 schedule, which are coming under 10 schedule, this will look after. Okay, second planning committee, that different departments programs are planned by this one. Second planning committee. Sixth one, second planning committee. Second planning committee we are calling. This second planning committee. So this especially development of package for Rayalaseema, Northern Andhra districts. This committee is headed by Secretary of Planning Department. Okay, special development package according to this one. Special development package. So this especially what happened, in the sense, so special development will take place. Okay, special development. So that will take place, especially. So there is in Rayalaseema and Northern Andhra district. Okay, special development. So special development that will take place where, in the sense, in Rayalaseema and Andhra, Northern Andhra, because Northern Andhra, Srikakulam, Vijayanagaram, Vishaka to some extent not developed like that, they believe. That's why mainly Srikakulam. So that's why here some package for Rayalaseema and Northern Andhra districts, that it should be okay. So that should be allocated like that. This committee headed by Secretary of Planning Department. This is headed by Secretary of Planning Department. Okay. So second planning committee. The second planning committee. Okay. Special development on Rayalaseema, at the same time North Andhra district. Special packages may be allocated. Okay. One is Rayalaseema and North Andhra. Rayalaseema, North Andhra only, this development, that will special package is provided like that, it was said. Okay, that's second planning committee, that is the sixth one. Seventh one, Industries Committee. Seventh one, if we see, Industries Committee, that is seventh one. Industries Committee, that is the seventh committee which is appointed. Industries Committee. Seventh one is Industries. This Industries Committee that was appointed. This Industries Committee mainly dealt with what, in the sense, So this apportionment of investments in the private sector, apportionment of investments in the private sector. How these investments are taking place in private sector, public sector institutions, corporate institutions, trade and commercial institutions, and 89 companies. Like that it observes. So here industries committee says in the sense investments in the private sector, apportionment of what in the sense? Investments in public sector, in private sector. That is one area. Public sector and private sector. Corporate institutions, trade and commercial institutions. Trade and commercial institutions. How this investment should be made like that. This committee studies. So this committee gives suggestions. Industries committee we are calling. So how these industries must be established in public sector and private sector. At the same time, apportionment of expenditure. Okay. So like that, that's another important. Then medical and health department committee. Medical and health department committee, that is also one. Medical and health department committee. This medical and health department committee, that is also medical and health department committee. This committee was appointed for the apportionment of hospital, doctors, ambulances and other medical facilities. How these ambulances must be distributed between Andhra, Rayalaseema. So there is Andhra, Rayalaseema one side, Telangana one side. Ambulances, that is one. Doctors, hospitals, how these hospitals, corporate hospitals, they are private hospitals, government hospitals, how these hospital things can be established like that. Medical and health departments committee, that's one. Revenue committee, that is also one, that you have to remember. Revenue committee. So ninth one is revenue committee, that you have to remember. Ninth one, revenue committee. This revenue committee, this is also one, like that it is such. Ninth one is revenue committee, constituted for the apportionment of different kinds of taxes. It deals with the different kinds of taxes. Different kinds of taxes mainly dealt with revenue department. A revenue committee, that is dealt with different kinds of taxes, we can say. That is one. General administration committee. 10th one is general administration committee. General administration. This general administration committee, that is also one. General administration committee we are calling. This one is general administration committee. Okay. This general administration committee principal secretary. So general administration department is the chairperson. List of employees and service conditions. List of employees. How many employees are working? List of employees and service conditions. Employees of both successive states. Okay. So there is especially, it says what in this is. So lists of employees and their service. Lists of employees at the same time, and their services seniority, etc. Services are seniority, etc. That comes under general administration, like that it was said. 11th one, second general administration committee.